Hi, welcome back to Reddit Confessions. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about the one sentence that ended everything, and the quiet, unbearable storm that followed. There was glass on the floor. I remember that detail more than her face. Shards of a wine glass she slammed against the wall, tiny reflections of kitchen light flickering in 100 directions. It was Cabernet. It left a dark red splash on the cabinets behind me, and at that moment, I remember thinking, that's never going to come out. That's the kind of man I am. She was screaming at me, telling me I was controlling, pathetic, not a real man. And I was wondering how to get wine out of white paint. And then she said it. Screamed it, actually, like a dagger thrown through the air. I'm not your possession. Time froze. I felt like I had stepped outside of my body. I could see myself, standing there in sweatpants, holding her jacket in my hands like an idiot who thought she'd forgotten it at work. I didn't shout back. I didn't beg. I just heard myself say, "Then this house is no longer your home." The silence that followed felt louder than her scream. She didn't respond right away. Just stood there, makeup smudged, hair wild, keys still in her hand, like she was trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I wasn't. And the worst part? She smiled. Not a soft, sad smile. A smug one, like she expected it. Then she grabbed her phone, turned on her heel, and walked out. No apology. No guilt. Not even a glance back at me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway, hugging my knees, with the front door still slightly open, as if, I don't know, maybe she'd change her mind? But what I found the next morning, that's when I realized, I didn't just lose my wife. I lost the version of her I thought was real. And the truth was so much worse than anything I imagined. I don't even remember falling asleep that night. I must have passed out from exhaustion or emotional whiplash, because when I opened my eyes, the sunlight pouring through the hallway window didn't feel real. It felt staged, like some cruel director had set up a morning after scene in a movie where the loser gets left behind. Except I wasn't acting. I was the loser, still in the same clothes, still sitting by the door, still hoping to hear her key in the lock. But the only sound I got was the faint hum of the fridge. I stood up and told myself I'd clean up the glass. I'd just sweep it, bag it, and pretend the night before didn't happen. Maybe she needed space. Maybe it was just a fight. Maybe she'd come home. But the moment I picked up her coat from the kitchen chair, the universe decided to slap me with the truth. There was something in the left pocket. Heavy. Cold. I thought maybe it was her car keys, but it wasn't. It was a folded piece of paper and a keycard. Not to our house. Not to her office. But to a hotel. One downtown. Room 314. Folded inside was a receipt for 2 nights, with a checkout date that hadn't even passed yet. I stood there with it in my hand for nearly 10 minutes, just staring at the numbers like they'd rearrange themselves if I stared hard enough. Like maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she'd booked it for a friend. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe I needed to stop lying to myself. I grabbed my jacket and left. Didn't even lock the front door. I drove like a zombie, heart pounding, hands sweating on the steering wheel. And when I got to the hotel, I actually sat in the parking garage for almost an hour, trying to decide if I was the kind of man who knocks on a hotel door without knowing what he's about to walk into. Turns out, I was. The hallway was carpeted. Soft. Too soft. Like it was trying to muffle guilt. I found the room. 314. My hand hovered over the door for too long. And then, before I could talk myself out of it, I used the keycard. It clicked. And when I pushed it open, I wish I could say I was surprised. But deep down, I already knew. There were 2 wine glasses on the table, a men's jacket on the floor, and laughter. Hers. From the bathroom. I didn't even have the strength to move. I just closed the door quietly behind me and walked away. But as I turned the corner at the end of the hallway, I heard it. A voice I'd never heard before. "You ready for round 2, babe?" And then her giggle. That familiar, high-pitched giggle she used to give me when we first started dating. The one I hadn't heard in years. It wasn't mine anymore. Nothing was. I don't remember the drive home. I only remember sitting in the dark living room, staring at the photo of us on our wedding day. Her smile looked so real back then. So full of hope. Of promises. I remember thinking, how did we get from that to this? And then, for the first time in 6 years of marriage, I did something I had never done. I started packing her things. One drawer at a time. And for every piece of clothing I folded, every necklace I placed into a box, every perfume bottle I wrapped in bubble wrap, I whispered the same question over and over. Why wasn't I enough? But I knew the answer already. I just didn't want to say it out loud. Not yet. She returned Sunday evening, just after sunset, as if she had scheduled it for cinematic effect. I heard her heels first. Sharp clicks on the porch tiles. I didn't move. I was sitting in the armchair by the window, lights off, wrapped in the same hoodie I'd been wearing for 3 days. I don't think she saw me at first when she opened the door. She just waltzed in like she forgot her phone or left groceries in the car. Like she lived here. Like she belonged. She dropped her overnight bag by the stairs and let out the fakest little sigh. God, the city was exhausting, she said to no one in particular, then added with a chuckle, Trey booked the wrong hotel. Can you believe that? I didn't answer. Not yet. She turned and froze when she saw me in the chair. Her smile, the one she had clearly rehearsed, disappeared instantly. Oh, you're home, she said, like I was the guest and she was the host. I just stared at her, not speaking, not blinking, not yet. She fidgeted, tugged at the sleeve of her blouse. Look, I know we left things tense, but I think we should talk about it. Don't you? I looked past her, to the spot where I had placed 3 neatly sealed boxes near the front door, each one labeled with her name, her clothes, her shoes, her books, her memories. I didn't throw anything. I didn't burn anything. I just sorted her out of my life. Her eyes landed on the boxes. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're being ridiculous, she scoffed. You seriously think a few boxes and a tantrum are going to scare me into submission? I finally spoke. My voice was hoarse and dry, like I hadn't used it in years. You're not scared. That's the problem. She stepped forward, arms crossed, now defensive. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said slowly, you didn't even try to lie. Not convincingly. You didn't come home with guilt. You didn't even apologize. You showed up like this place was just a hotel you booked for a night, and I'm the receptionist you forgot to tip. She rolled her eyes. Please, don't be dramatic. Room 314, I whispered. That stopped her cold. Her arms uncrossed. I stood up, walked over to the hallway table, and placed the hotel keycard there, the same one she thought she had hidden well. I watched her face pale, just slightly. Not enough for most people to notice. But I knew her. I knew that twitch in her jaw, the way her right foot shifted back half an inch. She knew the game was over. But instead of collapsing, she doubled down. So what? She said, voice rising. I needed space. You've been smothering me for years. Everything is about you and your little feelings and your fragile self-worth. You want me to cry now? Beg you? Is that what'll finally make you feel like a man? I think that was the moment something inside me broke for good. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I didn't cry. I just calmly replied. This isn't your home anymore, Corinne. Not emotionally. Not physically. Not legally. I talked to a lawyer. That got her attention. What? She snapped. You're not serious. I am. She paced the room, her voice climbing into panic. You can't erase me. I've lived here. I built this life with you. And you burned it down. For a brief second, I saw something in her eyes that looked like regret. Or maybe it was just rage. Then she stormed past me, grabbed her boxes one by one, and shoved them outside. Fine. Keep your stupid house, she hissed. It's always been more important to you than me anyway. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. But just before she slammed the door behind her, she turned and said something I'll never forget. You'll be crawling back. No one else will love you like I pretended to. She left, and the door stayed closed. But the silence she left behind? It was louder than ever. The first day after she left, I walked around the house like it had become a museum of someone else's life. Every room felt staged, the bed too perfectly made, the couch cushions still indented from where she last sat, a half-used bottle of lotion on the bathroom counter like she might return to finish it. I didn't touch anything. I just wandered, not really seeing, not really breathing. There was no yelling, no drama, no one to scream at or beg to stay. Just a heavy, endless silence that pressed on my chest like I'd swallowed concrete. I kept thinking it would feel better. That maybe, just maybe, I'd feel relief. I had done the right thing, hadn't I? She cheated. She lied. She humiliated me. And still, my heart was clutching onto the echo of her last sentence. No one else will love you like I pretended to. I hated how much it stuck. It circled around my mind like a vulture, picking at every bit of confidence I ever had. Was it all fake? All of it. The way she used to trace her fingers along my arm when she thought I was asleep. The way she laughed at my bad jokes during our first year of marriage. The nights we talked about naming kids we never had. Was any of it real? I needed answers. Closure. Something to make it make sense. That's when I remembered her old phone, buried in the junk drawer. It was an older model, but I'd seen her use it a few weeks ago when her main one died. It still had power. Still unlocked with the same code. Our wedding anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wasn't looking for pain. I wasn't trying to catch her again. I just needed to know if anything I believed was ever true. And then I found it. A single voicemail. Unplayed. From a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the play button for what felt like an hour. But curiosity, or maybe desperation, finally won. And the voice that came through wasn't hers. It was his. The man from the hotel. Trey. He didn't know she left the phone behind. He thought he was talking to her. And his words? They cracked the illusion wide open. Hey babe, just wanted to say last night was, wow. I haven't seen you like that in months. I mean, you were fire. Literally made me forget you're still technically married. But hey, not for long, right? I told you, once that house is out of the way, we'll be free. Don't let that loser guilt you, okay? You deserve this. We deserve this. I love you. I dropped the phone like it burned me. The voicemail was dated a week before our blowout fight. A week before she screamed about not being my possession. A week before I even knew about the hotel. She had been planning it. Not just the affair. Not just the escape. But the full reset of her life. Without me. And she didn't even have the decency to lie about it well. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, that voicemail playing over and over in my head like some kind of sick mantra. She was already gone long before she walked out. I just hadn't noticed I was living with a ghost. At some point, the room started spinning, and I realized I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My stomach ached, but not from hunger. From grief. I was grieving someone who was still alive. I wanted to call her. To scream. To demand answers. But I knew what she'd say. Something cruel. Something practiced. Something that would make me feel even smaller. So instead, I saved the voicemail. And then I forwarded it. Not to her, but to myself. Because if there was any part of me still doubting what she was capable of, I wanted proof. I needed it. For the lonely nights. For the nights I'd miss her. For the days I might blame myself again. I needed to hear it from him. That I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't dramatic. That I was betrayed. But what I didn't know, not then, was that this voicemail wasn't the end of it. It was just the beginning. Because the next call that came in wasn't from her. It was from someone I never expected. The phone rang just after midnight. I was lying in bed, not sleeping, just staring at the ceiling like it held answers, when the screen lit up. Unknown number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail. But something about it. I don't know. Maybe I was hoping it was her. Maybe I was dreading it. Maybe I wanted more pain. That's what people like me do, right? Chase the thing that broke us, hoping it'll apologize. I answered. The voice on the other end wasn't hers. It was Ellis, Corinne's younger sister. I hadn't heard from her in years. Not since our wedding, actually. She'd moved out of state, never really involved herself in family drama. Always had this wild, free spirit vibe. I didn't expect her to even know what was happening, let alone call me. Ellis? She asked, almost cautiously. Yeah, I said, sitting up. It's late. Is something wrong? There was a pause. I know you and Corinne split. I heard from my mom, she said quietly. I wasn't going to reach out. I figured it wasn't my place. But then, something came up. My heart started pounding. What do you mean, came up? She's not who you think she is, Elise said. I mean, you know that now? But there's more. I stayed silent. Just let her keep going. I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm trying to stir things up, she continued. But a few months ago, she called me out of the blue. First time in forever. Said she needed a favor. Said it was about money. That didn't surprise me. Corinne had always been creative when it came to finances. But I didn't interrupt. She asked if I'd pretend to be the co-signer for a property loan, Elise said. Something about an investment. She sent me the papers. And Ellis, your name was all over them. That made me sit straight up. Wait, what? She was trying to refinance the house. Your house, Elise said. Behind your back. The paperwork was structured like you had agreed. Like your signature was already accounted for. But the weird part? She listed me as a fallback co-signer in case anything went wrong. My throat went dry. She said you'd been checked out, and that it was just a matter of time before you left, so she might as well secure it in her name. I didn't sign anything. I ghosted her after that call. Something felt off, but I thought you should know. I pressed my hand to my forehead. My mind was spinning. So it hadn't just been an affair. It had been a setup. She wasn't planning to run away. She was planning to own everything when I broke. And I had almost handed it all to her. The house, the story, the narrative. She wanted me to look like the unstable husband, the one who couldn't keep it together. So when she walked away, she'd be the victim with the keys. You still there? Ellis asked. Yeah, I breathed. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you for telling me. Another pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. She's done this before, Ellis. In college. She dated a guy, got him to sign on a lease, then tanked his credit and left. My parents hushed it up. I didn't think she'd do it again. But she's always had a way of making people feel like they owed her. I could feel my stomach turning. You deserve better, she said gently. And you're not crazy. You're not weak. You were just too kind to someone who weaponized kindness. That broke me. Tears started falling before I could stop them. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence carry the grief. After the call ended, I walked through the house like I was searching for evidence of something I'd never find, the woman I thought I married. And then, in the back of my closet, under an old box of winter coats, I found a folder. It had documents I'd never seen, paperwork with forged initials, transactions I didn't approve, her name next to mine on fake forms. She was going to destroy me financially, emotionally. She already had. But now I had proof. What I didn't have was a plan. Not yet. The folder didn't just break me. It rewired something in me. For days, I couldn't sleep. I didn't eat properly. I stopped answering texts from coworkers, dodged calls from my manager, and let the laundry pile into mountains. My mind was spiraling, and every time I thought it couldn't get worse, I remembered there were signatures on those documents that weren't mine. Except one of them looked too much like mine. Practiced. Traced. Perfect. I compared them side by side under a lamp. One was real. The others weren't. She hadn't just forged my name. She'd studied it. Practiced it. Maybe even rehearsed it. She had planned this for a long time. And I'd slept beside her every night, thanking the universe for giving me a loyal wife. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the methodical coldness of it. She'd weaponized trust, kindness, time, my vulnerability. She hadn't snapped. She'd strategized. But there was one thing that kept nagging me, one name that showed up again and again in the documents as a witness to my supposed approvals. Gabe, my best friend. The same Gabe who had helped me patch up the kitchen ceiling after a storm last winter. The same Gabe who had brought me fast food when Corinne was working late. The same Gabe who had stood beside me at the altar as my best man and toasted us with tears in his eyes. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Some other Gabe. A different signature. Just a coincidence. But something didn't sit right. So I reached out. I texted him. Hey, need to talk. In person. It's serious. He replied almost instantly. Sure. Come over. His apartment was only 15 minutes away, but the drive felt endless. I rehearsed what I'd say 100 times. I'd ask calmly. Give him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to accuse. I just needed clarity. When I walked in, he looked uncomfortable, like he already knew why I was there. He offered me a drink. I declined. Straight to it then, he said, sitting down. I placed the folder on his coffee table and opened it. Your name's on these, I said, voice shaky. As a witness. Multiple times. Signatures. Legal affirmations. He didn't even flinch. I know. The room spun. You knew? I whispered. I signed them, he said calmly. She asked me to. I staggered back a step. You what? She told me you'd agreed. He continued, not even blinking. Said you were too depressed to deal with the paperwork, but it was all fine. That it was mutual. She just needed someone to verify it in case of any issues. Ellis, man. I didn't think I was doing anything shady. She said it was already handled. I trusted her. You trusted her? My voice cracked. More than me. He looked down. Honestly. Yeah. At that point, yeah. My body went cold. He looked up, and something shifted in his face, some tiny flicker of guilt or shame. I didn't just sign those forms, he admitted. We got close. After your fight started. She came to me. Said you were unraveling. She made it sound like she was trapped. That you were the one holding her back. I sat down because I couldn't stand anymore. My hands were shaking. You slept with her? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I laughed, not because anything was funny, but because my mind had officially stopped protecting me from reality. I had lost everything, and the person who stood by me through every major life moment had helped her light the match. I left without saying another word. Drove home numb, staring straight ahead as the streetlights flickered past me like they were blinking in slow motion. At home, I sat in the dark again. My mind couldn't even process anger anymore. It was just layers of disbelief, stacked so high I couldn't see the top. But in the silence, I remembered something Corinne had once said when we were still happy. We were watching a crime documentary, one about a woman who had faked her death for insurance money. She looked at me, half laughing, and said, "People only fake things when they know they'll get away with it. Otherwise, what's the point?" Back then, I'd laughed. Now, I realized she meant it. The question was, how far had she planned to go? Because if she had dragged Gabe into this, who else had she manipulated? And what was her endgame? I was about to find out. I don't remember how long I sat there in the dark. Time didn't feel real anymore. It was like I was stuck in some warped dream where everything familiar had turned into a trap. My home didn't feel like home. My memories didn't feel like mine. The betrayal had gone so far, so deep, I was scared to touch anything, as if even the furniture might lie to me next. But that night, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I opened my laptop, not to scroll, not to escape, but to dig. I started with our shared email account, the one we'd barely used since the first year of marriage. A digital time capsule. It was mostly cluttered with coupons, travel deals, subscription receipts. But then I found a folder titled Mortgage Files, Backup, created 6 months ago. Inside were scanned documents. Dozens of them. Most had my name on them. None of them had been signed by me. And then I saw a name I didn't recognize, Madeline Kerrigan, listed as a consultant on a series of real estate transfers and asset evaluations. My name was attached to authorizations granting her permission to assess the value of the house, my car, and even a storage unit I had rented years ago after my dad died. Corinne had been cataloging everything I owned, not just our shared property, but my individual assets, things that weren't even marital. My father's record collection, my vintage camera gear. She was preparing a full-scale liquidation. And the scariest part? Some of the authorizations were dated next week. She hadn't just taken from me. She was still planning to. I felt this cold ripple of dread shoot through me. I grabbed my phone, copied Madeline's name into a search bar. She was real, had a polished website, specialized in quiet transitions, property restructuring, asset buyouts, discreet liquidation. One of her testimonials, and I swear this made my blood stop moving, read, "Madeline made a very delicate situation feel smooth and dignified. I was leaving a long, toxic marriage and needed to recover what was rightfully mine without drama. She handled everything quietly, effectively, and without conflict. Thank you. CL, Chicago. Corinne L. She hadn't just wanted out of our marriage. She wanted every piece of it delivered to her, pre-packaged and profitable, like some kind of personalized exit strategy. The boxes I packed for her? That was child's play compared to what she had packed for me. A life where I'd be standing in the ruins, wondering how I ever believed any of it was real. The next morning, I called the number listed on Madeline's site. I used a fake name, said I was interested in her services, said I was looking to separate from a spouse and wanted help preparing assets quietly. She picked up herself. Friendly voice. Too friendly. Within 2 minutes, she asked if I'd be comfortable sharing details about any property owned solely under my name. That's when I knew this wasn't just a consultant. This was a cleaner, a fixer, someone you hire when you want the breakup to feel more like a vanishing act. I thanked her, hung up, and immediately called my lawyer. The real one this time. By the end of the day, we had filed a formal fraud alert, froze the joint account, and contacted the mortgage lender to revoke any unauthorized consultations tied to the property. But it didn't stop there, because as we were combing through the mess, my lawyer looked up at me and said, "You know there's a pending court filing here, right?" "What?" "She filed to transfer ownership of the house to a trust 3 days ago, with you listed as deceased." I stared at him. "Deceased?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "It's incomplete, not finalized. But Ellis, this isn't just financial fraud. She was setting up a full identity erasure." My blood went ice cold. She was trying to erase me. He nodded again, more somber this time. If this trust had been processed and confirmed under false pretenses, you'd be locked out of your own life. Legally, it'd take months to undo, maybe years. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't think. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had tried to delete me from the system, from my own story. And as I sat in that lawyer's office, hearing legal terms swirl like fog around my head, all I could think about was how easily I had let it all happen. I had trusted, forgiven, stepped back, let her take up space, let her lead. And she used that space to plant dynamite under my life. I wasn't angry. Not really. I wasn't strong enough for that yet. But I was done being quiet. If she thought she could steal my identity, rewrite the narrative, and walk away untouched, she didn't know me at all. The thing about losing everything is this. Once it's all gone, you finally see what was never real to begin with. The morning after I met with my lawyer, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the mug she once bought me that read, "World's most patient husband." I used to think it was cute. Now it felt like a warning label I had ignored. But that day, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt awake. I made calls. Lots of them. One to the county recorder to flag any activity on the house title. One to the police to file a formal complaint for fraud. One to my HR department to separate all my retirement accounts from anything with her name on it. I even contacted the storage unit where my dad's belongings were held and transferred ownership out of our joint name. Piece by piece, I started stitching my life back together. I was still numb. Let's not pretend this ended in a dramatic movie moment where I danced around the living room to reclaim my joy. But for the first time in years, I was doing something for me. Not to keep someone else happy. Not to hold a crumbling marriage together with duct tape and bedtime apologies. Just for me. The real turning point came a week later. She showed up, unannounced, dressed in a soft cardigan and jeans, makeup light, hair pulled back like the old her. The one I married. She knocked. I opened the door, but didn't step aside to let her in. She tilted her head. "Ellis, can we talk?" I didn't say anything. She offered a small, rehearsed smile. I know things got out of hand. I was confused. But I think we both made mistakes and maybe. No. She blinked. No. I shook my head. You didn't make mistakes, Corinne. You made plans. You forged. You lied. You betrayed. You tried to bury me in the rubble and walk off with the deed. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "I'm not your possession either," I said, voice calm. And I finally stopped acting like one. That hit her. Not because it hurt, but because it meant I was done. The kind of done that didn't need revenge or closure. Just distance. "I hope you find whatever you were looking for," I added. "But you're not going to find it here." She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just nodded once, turned, and walked back to her car. No storm. No drama. Just the end. It's been 6 months now. The house feels different, lighter. I donated the things she left behind, replaced the photos, repainted the bedroom. I adopted a rescue dog named Milo. He snores louder than I do, but he never lies. And me? I'm still quiet. Still soft. Still a little broken. But I'm not erased. Not deleted. Not hers anymore. And for the first time in years, I'm actually looking forward to what's next. Thanks for watching this story here on Reddit Confessions. If you made it this far, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment when someone tried to rewrite your story, but you took the pen back? Drop your experience in the comments. You never know who might need to read it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for more shocking, heartfelt, and powerful confessions. Only here on Reddit Confessions. See you in the next story.